let us go into the breach. And you're watching us live on Facebook and YouTube across the Frontline with Joe and Joe, Holy Faith Media, and a whole host of other platforms right now. And we thank you for joining us here Sunday night live for our weekly podcast. Now, we got a lot to talk about because we got Election Day on Tuesday. Now, I already voted, and Joe already voted, okay? But nonetheless, there's a lot of activity going on between now and then. Donald Trump is flying all over the place. The guy is not for nothing. I'm 53 years old. Dude's in a lot better shape than I am.
I don't know how he does it.
All right, I really don't know how he does it. But we're going to talk about some of the major things that are going to be talked about over the course of the next couple of days leading into the election. Particularly Donald Trump's message is going to be the economy. Because no matter what we talk about on this show, no matter what the libs want to talk about on MSNBC and CNN and the rest of it, okay? Thank you, Barbara, for letting us know that. Appreciate it, babe. No matter what they talk about, the economy still is first and foremost in people's minds. And the media is trying to sell you that it's COVID, albeit COVID is on people's minds. But the economy is first and foremost. How am I paying my bills? What does my future look like? How secure is my job? All these questions that come up. Well, Larry Kudlow, who is widely berated by the mainstream media for saying there was going to be a V-shaped recovery, well, guess what? There was a V-shaped recovery, and Joe and I are going to talk about it because we had the greatest economic quarter, the greatest economic quarter in the history of the United States of America. So we're going to talk about that. There's no going back, by the way. Once Donald Trump wins, we believe he's going to win. There is no going back to the old Republican Party. John McCain is dead. God rest his soul. But John McCain's Republicanism is also dead. Mitt Romney's Republicanism is dead. John Kasich's Republicanism, it's dead. Donald Trump has remade the Republican Party, and we're in that Republican Party. For all its faults, it's not perfect, okay? It's not perfect. But we're in that party, and we want to change that party to more suit us because we are obviously not Democrats because those people are insane, okay? So we're going to get into that a little bit. And let me tell you why they're insane. Another story we're going to get into. The open threats of harm that are coming from the left against not just people out there in the public, people like you and us. People who dare to say, I'm voting for the orange man, okay? And proudly so, and say, yeah, I know he's not perfect, but I'm going to vote for him anyway. Again, why? Because I said it 5 seconds ago. Because those people are insane, all right? Well, they're threatening you. They're threatening a lot of other people. We're going to get into that, too, here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Remember, we do want to plug the Crusade channel. We go on once a week on Mondays for a 3-hour radio show. We love doing it. It's a great, great experience. It really is helping us to get our message out there. CrusadeChannel.com, always on air and always online. Free 30-day trial subscription. We encourage everybody to take advantage of the free trial subscription. Listen to Mike Church, listen to Rick Barrett, listen to his whole lineup, Joe and Joe, which you do on Sunday nights. And we're firmly convinced that you'll become a member of the Crusade channel. Remember, Joe and I don't receive any compensation for that whatsoever. We just love the channel. We're proud to be a part of it, and we would encourage you to be a part of it also, okay? So having said all that, well, let's get into making some money, Joe Resinello. Something tells me in the near future we'll be able to.
As Joe said, the economy has roared back. The numbers came in for the third quarter. It's the fastest growth in history. I believe since they started to track the GDP, and I believe it was 33.1%.
33.1%, the first time since they started tracking it in 1940.
Just to give you some background, the surprising and historic economic growth was spurred by increases in consumer spending, inventory investment, exports, business investment, housing investments, that are partially offset by decreases in government spending on both the federal and state level. Obviously, Donald Trump celebrated this GDP growth, noting that if the Democratic nominee Joe Biden's policies are put into effect, they will have an opposite effect on you, which means GDP will go down. I absolutely agree with that. And as Joe said, the economy is the most important issue in America. There is no question about that. Bill Clinton coined the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid."
Either that or it was that Cajun, James Carville.
Exactly.
The economy stupid. I think it might have been him.
But
it was the Clinton administration.
It is the driving factor. Sadly, it shouldn't be, but it is. Most Americans vote their paycheck. Most Americans choose the economy over ideology. This is a fact. And don't discount the fact that a vote for Trump is a vote for economic optimism. Anytime there's an indication that Trump may not win the election, the stock market plummets. Now, Democrats try to sell that as, well, we're not for Wall Street, we're for Main Street. Well, guess what? Everyone on Main Street has a 401k, and I also will tell you this. If Wall Street doesn't make money, Main Street suffers because they fire people.
And let's get another thing straight, too, about the lie of Obamacare or the Democrats are for the working man and Trump is for corporations. Pharmaceutical profits doubled. Medical insurance companies' profits doubled after Obamacare. These are metrics that matter that Joe talks about, but they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about how rich they got because Obamacare is rigged. The whole thing is rigged. Donald Trump's been trying to throw a torpedo into that and putting us on par with the rest of the world. Why we're paying $1 per pill compared to somebody, let's say, overseas paying 10 cents for the same pill. Because again, remember, with the left, it's redistribution. You Americans need to pay more because you make more. Well, freak you. I don't want to pay more. How about this? If the price of a pill is 15 cents, well, then I pay 15 cents and that guy pays 15 cents. That's what's just, isn't it?
I would think so.
I would think so. So this idea that Obamacare, Amy Coney Barrett's going to take away the ACA, and it's all a bunch of crap.
That's a straw man argument.
All right, Joe Biden is a darling of the corporate elites and the Wall Street elites just as much as he is the Hollywood elites and everybody else. Joe, real quick, only because we're just jumping in and then we're going to continue. I just want to give a quick shout out. Dan's with us. Hey, Dan, Basil, Maureen, John Carlos with us. Suzanne, haven't seen you in a couple weeks. Suzanne, where have you been? She says, good evening from Erie, Colorado. Good evening from Bergen County, New Jersey. Ann's with us. Donald's with us. Susan says New Jersey for Trump. From your lips to God's ears, Susan. From your lips to God's ears. Don't think it's going to happen. But I will tell you this.
They shut the Parkway down today.
Trump rally?
Yes.
It's one of those things. It's interesting. Susan, I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking about this on the way here. Do you realize that, and I know I can speak for Joe in this, when you talk to people, just in New Jersey, walk into a department store or a supermarket or something like that, and you happen to get into a conversation with somebody, they're voting for Trump. Now, I know that's very anecdotal because obviously the big cities are all that support's going to go for Biden, okay, the unions and all that. But if you ask your regular person in the street, they're like those people on the Parkway. They're like people like Susan in the chat room. New Jersey for Trump. How I wish Trenton, Newark, Jersey City, and Atlantic City and Camden might follow a little suit. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Marine's here also. Antonio, hello Antonio. Christian's here and Linda's here. She says, hey, my favorite guys. Linda, you're our favorite gal. So yeah, the economy and all the metrics, by the way, underneath just the GDP number. In other words, we're all strong. Charles Payne was on Fox. I like Charles Payne a lot. He's a very insightful guy. He says all the metrics across the board, in other words, are up and in favor of this economic comeback. Now, here's my question to you. Please, I'm going to throw it out there to you. What would the number have been if major cities in America and major states weren't locked down? What would that number have been in the third quarter?
Forget it. But also keep this in mind. What would the number in terms of the polls be if the media was fair?
Right.
One of many things that have been revealed during this administration is the media. That includes Fox News, in my view. They are the enemy of the American people. The media is utterly and absolutely a propaganda wing of the Democratic Party. It's no denying it. And I will tell you this. I do believe Donald Trump is going to win this election. And when he does, he is signing the death sentence for the American media and for every pollster out there. They might as well get another job.
Pollsters should be investigated. I'm sorry. If you put out a poll and you're showing Trump is behind in Wisconsin
by 17%.
By 17 points, and he wins Wisconsin, I'm sorry. The Department of Justice should have something to say about this. You're disseminating false information. Because now you're not just wrong. Let's say, okay, I said Biden was going to win by 5%. Trump won by 1.5 points. I had a margin of error, right? 17 points, really? 11 points in Michigan. Barbara, you're out there in Wisconsin. Is Trump down 17 points? Biden's not winning New Jersey by 17 points, let alone Wisconsin. Like you said, Don says in the chat room, Democrats sell doom and gloom. Right. They sell that doom and gloom through the media, which Joe makes a good point. The media needs, in the next 4 years, we as the American people don't do something about this media, whatever means we have at our disposal, I don't know what they might be.
Well, stop watching it.
Stop watching is
because,
always the first, yeah.
I mean, I've seen this with some numbers that have been floated around with the NBA. I mean, they got cut so deep. They're probably going to have to cut paychecks because ultimately it's the paychecks that are basically fueled by the tickets.
Is LeBron's paycheck getting cut?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, if they're not selling jerseys, it's basic supply and demand economics. I mean, that's how you control the media, and that's how you control all this stuff. You stop watching. You stop giving them money.
Right.
I actually heard that CNN possibly could be on the what's it called? The seller's block.
Listen, nothing could be better. Remember at one point, if I remember correctly, before Rupert Murdoch took over the New York Post, and Ted Kennedy tried to prevent him from doing that, right?
He's no dummy.
New York Post was really kind of a raggish paper. It had devolved to that, okay? And Rupert Murdoch came in and really revamped that paper. Maybe the same thing happens. And he brought respectability back to that paper. Got good writers. They got a good editorial board. And the New York Post is a respected newspaper. I don't care what anybody says.
It's the fourth largest periodical in America.
Right. So the New York Post is absolutely respected news outlet, okay, because they're very objective. I don't just read conservative news in the New York Post. There's a lot of different people that write in the New York Post and a lot of writers who they're, let's say, syndicated writers whose columns they get. Not all of them are right-wing Catholic Republicans like Joe and I, okay? But that would be a great thing. If CNN went on a chopping block, throw Jeff Zucker right the hell out, sell the company, somebody comes in and says, you want to know what? They tried to gain market share by being completely left. I'm going to try to make it where we're going to be a little bit more central. How's this? Fair and balanced, okay? I bet somebody would come in, scoop them right up, fire 3/4 of the people on that station, and bring in people who are at least not insane, like Brian Stelter and Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo, all right, and Chris Hayes. You know what that Chris Hayes said? Do you know what this guy said? You want to talk about insanity in the media? Here's a guy who said, every time anybody looks at Amy Coney Barrett, they should remember that super spreader event at the White House. Her swearing in was a super spreader event, and these people are to be taken seriously. So that's a long-winded way of saying, to Joe's point, media and pollsters need to have their feet held to the fire once Donald Trump wins on Tuesday.
Well, like I said, we'll see, but the coverage has just been absolutely and utterly horrible, and they've done their very best to defeat Donald Trump, and it's as obvious as the day is long. It's a disgrace. It is an absolute and utter disregard to how the Constitution was framed with regard to a free press, a press that represents and protects the people. It is the enemy of the people. It has hurt America, and frankly, if Trump wins, he is signing their death notice, if you ask me.
Well, you want to know what? And it's about time. And if he wins, the overriding reason is going to be the economy. But there's going to be some other reasons too. And a lot of those reasons, a lot of Republicans don't like Joe Resinello. They want to go back to a Republican. See, I don't know what, when you talk about back to what? The Republican Party, who Joe and I have voted for over the years, they've never taken our back. In New Jersey, we vote for Republicans like Tom Kean and Christy Todd Whitman. You know what I mean? Liberal Northeast Republicans, okay? They're not pro-life, okay? They're not conservative in any sort of meaningful sense. So what do these people want to go back to? So that's another thing that we wanted to cover. So the economy is coming back strong. Trump gets in, it keeps going. Biden gets in, picture driving down the New Jersey Turnpike at 90 miles an hour and jamming on the brakes. That's what's going to happen if Biden gets elected. But what about these Republicans, Joe?
Well, as Joe said, there's no going back to the old Republican Party. And there was a great article in The Federalist by Molly McCann, and we want to talk about it because I think she's spot on, and I think it brings up a lot of interesting points that we could elaborate on. In 2016, Trump hijacked the Republican Party. No other GOP candidate was going to win in 2016. That's an absolute lock and absolutely accurate. Trump won because he was not actually a Republican. What all Republicans need to realize is that the party, as it was, is dead. Its leaders lost the GOP's soul by following globalist policies and pursuing their own personal wealth at the expense of the American people. While those Republicans were busy chasing their own interests and meddling into the ruling elite in Washington, the country, and indeed the world changed. What has come to be in the GOP's stead and what will continue to develop is a new party. Trump is not a fluke president. He united a movement and formed a new party that will continue on even after he leaves. She's 100%
Absolutely.
correct. He has grafted in the average working man. You see, that is to his success as the president. It's flipped. The Democratic Party was the party of the working man. It no longer is. It's as obvious as the day is long. They're trying to mask that through Biden, the Manchurian candidate, as Joe Pasillo has called him, and that is accurate. They're trying to say he is the moderate, but underneath the skin of Joe Biden is a very liberal party. You could look at the unifying document between Biden and Sanders, 110 pages. If you Google it, you'll see it from NPR. You could look at what they both agreed upon. They are the strongest voice in this, in terms of the left.
Yeah.
It is now the party of the working man. And frankly, the people he's talking about here, and George Bush was one of them, they were institutional men. They were country club Republicans.
Right. Just
old money, country club, Ivy League guys.
Just looking to make deals.
That's it.
Just looking to make deals. And but when they make a deal, you see, you got elitist status, and then you got elitists in the corporate world. And when they make a deal, who's that usually at the expense of? You. That's who it is. Who pays for it? You. Let me give you a perfect example of this. Joe Biden's a workman. By the way, I just want to say hi to Eddie's in the chat room. Good evening, Eddie. Hopefully, Eddie, in 2 years, I think he's going to run in Florida for Congress in 2022. So Eddie says most media types are activists, not journalists. Objectivity is irrelevant to them. Eddie, when you have a seat in the United States House of Representatives, we want to know what you're going to do, because we'd love to hear some solutions as to what we're going to do to maybe break up these media conglomerates, because they have way too much power. Okay, way too much power. But the thing is, here's a perfect example. Joe Biden is supposedly the working man's senator, right? 29 years old he was when he got into the Senate.
I think younger than that.
Okay, he ran in Delaware. That's where he got started. He ran in Delaware as the son of a working man, okay, from Scranton, Pennsylvania. You know a little something about Scranton, Pennsylvania, okay? But I'm just telling you the narrative that they peddle. Joe Biden is proof positive that you could be a moron and get elected to the United States Senate and spend your entire career there when you have the backing of corporate elites. And in Delaware, who did he have the backing of? Who constantly gave him money? Credit card companies. Now, this is going back to the 1970s, okay? Because in Delaware, you know how every corporation, they all incorporate in Delaware.
They have favorable corporate laws, and that's why a lot of companies incorporate out of the state.
Right. So what you get is credit card companies. Who do credit card companies make money on?
You.
People, rich people? Rich people? No. People like us. Credit card companies try to sell us the illusion of prosperity by telling us, well, like in the Bugs Bunny cartoon, you too could have all these luxuries, okay? But in the meantime, you got to go out and you got to borrow 10, 20, 30 G's to have all those luxuries. And then what do you have to do? You have to pay usurious compound interest. If Joe Biden was actually on the side of the working man throughout his career, where he took money from them throughout his career, okay, he would have done something about that. What did he ever do about it? But that's an example of what you're talking about, Joe Resinello. That's an example of when the politician who wants to sell the working man and the blue collar guy a bill of goods, and who do they get in bed with to get some real money to run their campaigns? Usually corporate elites. In this case, with Joe Biden, credit card companies. But it's the same across the board. And the Republican establishment has been guilty of the same thing. So again, what do you want to go back to? Donald Trump is not I've come to this conclusion. Tell me what you think. Is Donald Trump transitional or transformative in your mind?
Oh, I definitely think it's transformative. He is the new Republican Party. It will never go back again. It will never go back again. And if he gets 4 more years, he will cement that new party. You're either in or you're out. And frankly, a lot of the Never Trumpers have basically jumped on board. He is now the party. Period.
Well, they'll be going to the other side, Joe. In 2024, they'll switch parties because Trump's going to win again. And it's a very good shot with the momentum. Again, we have 2 days to go. We are not making a prediction. We believe Trump is going to win again. I think that the Republicans are going to keep the Senate. I think John James is going to win in Michigan. It's going to be an additional buffer or a barrier for the Democrats to regain control of the Senate because John James is winning right now. See, a black guy who's running in Michigan with all those racist white people, as the Republican or as the Democrats want to call them, a black guy is beating a whiter than white Democrat by, I think, 2 points right
What's his
now.
name? Gary Peters.
Gary Peters in Michigan. That's a net gain for Republicans. Okay, so that makes it harder for Democrats. But my point is this: I think Donald Trump is a combination of transformative and transitional. I don't think he's the guy. I think he has been transformative in certain ways. I think one of the main ways is what we're touching on in this conversation about reshaping the Republican Party. See, he's transforming the Republican Party. And in that way, I would posit to you that he is a transformative president. However, I think he's transitional in as far as nationally speaking, and our national politics. I think the best person for us is yet to come. We don't know who that is. Okay, you can make some guesses. Who's on the
Maybe
horizon?
it'll be Candace Owens.
Maybe it'll be Candace Owens. You know, and again, we'd have to dissect her a little. Maybe it'd be Josh Hawley, a young senator. Okay, a young, energetic senator. Okay, somebody, Tom Cotton, maybe somebody like that. We don't know.
Maybe it'll be Anthony Basil in the chat room.
Could be Anthony Basil, who would get my vote. John is with us. John Everett is with us in the chat room, and he said, if Trump and Republicans win, what do you do? What do you see him do for the next term? Education. We'll get into that in another show, John. But I think one of the primary things is continue with judges and to do something about the education system. Now, that would be transformative. If you did something about the education system and you gave African Americans and Hispanics in the inner city an opportunity to get better educations, and the Republicans as a party were responsible for that, we could, for the long term, we could carve out a really good percentage of African Americans and Hispanics. But I do, is it okay if
Sure.
I want to, because this is what we're talking about. These are people I at one time respected, but it seems like they're as apoplectic as the left when it comes to, like you always talk about, rocking the boat. Okay, it's like they just can't see change, that the Republican Party has needed change, that we've many times, Joe, myself, many of all you good people out there, you voted Republican holding your nose. I voted Republican holding my nose for Mitt Romney. I wasn't excited
That's
about
why he lost.
So,
because the country wasn't excited.
Right, the country wasn't excited about him, and give Barack Obama credit. He excited people, okay? But here's the thing, Peggy Noonan. I've always liked Peggy Noonan. I thought she was always a very insightful person. What another disappointment, man. Another never Trump Republican. Just listen real quick to what she had to say. She said, Noonan, now this is from, again, Molly McCann's article in The Federalist, okay? So Peggy Noonan penned an archetypal anti-Trump article this month titled Biden, Pence, and a Wish for Normalcy. That was the title of the article. Noonan mused almost longingly that America might be headed toward an unprecedented landslide in favor of Joe Biden. I'm sorry, if Trump loses, I'm sorry, Peggy, I don't see it being a landslide.
I don't know how he could lose. I'll be truthful with you, because your eyes, they could say whatever they want with the polls. Look at the rallies. I watched this weekend Trump in Minnesota, which has not voted for a Republican since 1972.
Mm-hmm.
Trump, they basically rigged his rally. They only allowed 250 people at it. They were thousands and thousands of people on the outskirts of the rally. And at Biden's rally in Minnesota, he was booed, and he called the people booing him ugly people. First of all, this is not like he's in Texas being booed. He's being booed in a liberal state. Again, anything can happen, but just my own eyes, when you look at the basic optics, the ground game of Donald Trump versus the ground game of Joe Biden, I'm just saying, I don't see how he could lose. Also, there's an assumption on the polls. Just because you mail in a ballot, don't assume that that vote is going to Joe Biden.
Well, a lot of them have not been.
That's my point.
They're behind in the mail-in ballots in the early voting.
90 million people have voted up to this point, by the way.
That's incredible.
However, just because someone votes via the mail, I voted by the mail. I had to because New Jersey, that's the only way you can vote. But I didn't vote for Joe Biden.
Right.
So my point, and you can't tell by the envelope. You can't tell.
Right.
It's an envelope. So
Right.
my point is they make an assumption. They say there are more people likely, maybe that's true, to vote by mail, to vote Democrat than Republican, but you don't know what's in there.
But that's not what the results have been showing up till now. The results have been showing that no, there's Republicans are just not behind in the early voting the way they need to be in order for the Democrats to win. And many Republicans, there's two things going on for Tuesday. Many Republicans who refused, see, we live in New Jersey. We were forced by our evil governor to have to drop our ballot in the mailbox or in the...
dude, that was one of the most hijacked Democratic moves I've ever seen.
Right, of all time. So we were forced to do that. But if we weren't forced to do that, we were going to the polls on Election Day. So there's two things going on. There's the Republicans who say, because of COVID, and in response to all these lockdowns, these unconstitutional lockdowns and orders like Murphy's when it comes to the election, they're going to the polls to say, I'm not afraid of COVID and I'm voting at the polls. And then you have the Democrats who've done a very good job of selling COVID, and they're scaring the crap out of their own people who are going to stay home on Election Day. I don't want to get COVID. I don't want to be around people. I can't trust the mask, blah, blah, blah. And they're not going to vote. You got two things going on. You have early voting not going in favor of the Democrats. You have Republicans that are itching to go out on Election Day. And you have Democrats that you have to ask yourself, are they going to go out on Election Day? By the way, I think it was Eddie in the chat room said, Kristi Noem. Now, I haven't seen everything about Kristi Noem. He said Kristi Noem in 2024. South Dakota, okay? But on the surface, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you, Eddie. Now, Joe and I, we're Catholic men. We want to dissect our views on life, on marriage, on judges, on all that stuff. But you want to see somebody who could be the first female president?
Actually,
you're
I
staring
think
at her.
The VP is going to be the senator from South Carolina. What's his name? Scott.
Oh, what do you mean, in 2024?
Yeah, I think he's young. He won't be the president, but I think he's going to run.
How about the new populist Republican Party puts Kristi Noem at the top of the ticket, a female, and Tim Scott as the number 2, a black man, okay?
Could happen.
And crush
Could happen.
the friggin' Democrats.
Could happen.
Crush
but
them
also
beyond
talking
belief.
about...
I want to just say one other thing about Peggy Noonan, because to dovetail into what you were saying. So Peggy Noonan said, if this happens, talking about the landslide for Joe Biden, if this happens, she said, one of the primary reasons simply will be that Biden is normal and people miss normal. Peggy Noonan could not be so wrong because guess what? We represent that we are in that, all of us, we are in this new populist movement, conservative populist movement, anti-globalist movement in America. That's why we're here. She's wrong. We don't want normal, Peggy. Don't you understand what you're missing? We don't want normal. I don't want Mitt Romney. I don't want Joe Biden. I don't want John McCain. Okay? I don't want John Kasich. John McCain's dead, but you know what I mean. So she's wrong about that. Her analysis, and again, a very highly respected person. All right? And I hope you don't mind being corrected, Ms. Noonan, by a couple of jamokes like us, but we're correcting you. You're wrong. We don't want normal. We want this country to be put back on the right path. And that's going to take getting away from what's been sold as normal for the last 20, 30, 40 years.
But also another thing I think that we have to talk about with regard to Trump's new party is Trump is a fighter. And any Republican who comes after him must have that spirit because you're up against it. You're up against the media. You have to brawl because they're out to fight you and they're out to win. That's one thing I will give the Democrats. They are out to win at all costs. They're looking to gain every inch, and you have to fight them. Mm-hmm. And you know something? Trump is that fighter.
Yep.
That's why he's the president. And the next guy that comes after him, or woman for that matter, has to have that same spirit. We can no longer have the Mitt Romneys or the George W. Bushes. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be abrasive. That doesn't mean that you have to be, quote unquote, unpresidential, the label that they continue to call Donald Trump. And frankly, listen, he can be very coarse. He says things that clearly sometimes maybe he shouldn't say.
Right.
However, you still have to be a fighter. You have to take the gloves off, and you are in a brawl because they mean business, and you have to mean business too. If you think you're going to win, if you think you're going to get anything done, you have to use leverage. You have to be willing to push them into a corner. Donald Trump has done it, and he has succeeded.
And so has Mitch McConnell.
And the next one after him must do the same.
So has Mitch McConnell, by the way. Mitch McConnell, who has been a disappointment, in many times in the past. Okay, just real quick shout out. Shihar just come down a little bit. Shihar said, "My husband and I." Now, see, you want to talk about fighters? Okay, Shihar's in the chat room. "My husband and I just stood in line for an hour in the cold to vote early in our county. I wore my MAGA mask, and he wore his Trump hat." She's a fighter. She's a fighter. She's a person and her husband that say, "I'm going to go and vote. I don't care. You're going to punch me in the face because I'm wearing a MAGA hat?" No, see, now that's a fighter.
I'm American. You vote. Listen, you're entitled to do whatever you want in terms of voting.
What am I supposed to do? Go up to somebody wearing a Biden T-shirt and punch him in the face? That's what the left does. That's not what people like us do. And Joe's exactly right. Why is it that the left thinks that they could get away with all the viciousness and the vitriol? All right, the lies, because they lie about people. They're going to have to stand before Jesus Christ, and they're going to have to account for all the lies, and lies that they knew were lies when they told them, like Trump supported white supremacists in Charlottesville. It's a blatant, outright lie, okay? They're going to have to be held to account for that, but they are vicious. And why is it that when we get somebody who takes the gloves off, who gets into the gutter with them, who, given the opportunity, coming up on election day, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies and says, "I don't care about your stupid Senate rules. I, under the Constitution, have the right to put up a nominee, and that's what I'm going to do." And Mitch McConnell, to his credit, said, "Well, we're gonna have some hearings. We're gonna have some hearings, and we're gonna put Judge Barrett on court." Now, I love that. Mitch McConnell stepping up. Screw the Susan Collinses of the world, okay? In other words, who needs her in the Republican Party? She represents that normal that Peggy Noonan longs for. But Susan Collins' normal doesn't benefit people like us and people like all you out there. She doesn't. That brand, that country club Republican elite is dead. Let them go to the Democrats. And then in the meantime, as we become a stronger party, particularly Dan mentioned in the chat room about becoming a morally stronger party, pushing for a more, getting back to a moral base in this country. Abortion comes to mind. Then that new populist Republican Party will be able to get a lot of those Democrats over to us, and there will be a political realignment. And I think that's like that should be. Anyway, if you read the tea leaves, that should be what's in the cards.
And Molly McCain, she puts I think a finer point on the conversation with regard to the old guard in the Republican Party. This is what she says: is we can't go back to normal, even if we wanted to turn the ship around. Trump's new party is composed of people who still believe in the American dream for themselves and each other. This new party is ready to do the difficult work necessary to peacefully yet decisively and without apology or compromise return this country to its founding principles. Be wary of the negative assaults of otherwise good, in quotation mark, Republicans, and don't let them dissuade you. When the chaos of this current realignment settles, it will be clear that they aren't in our party. Their party failed. Ours is going to lead America back to prosperity and encourage a global movement towards national sovereignty and freedom. She is 100% correct. I think. My view, but I agree. 100%.
See, that's the thing, and Joe hit the nail on the head when he said that. Economic nationalism. Weird, and I think somebody commented in the chat, Dan said, we don't want globalization. Why do we have to have globalization? I don't want it. I'm an American. I don't want to be told what to do by another country. I don't want some supranational organization telling me or you what to do. Why do you think Brexit happened? for that very same reason.
And why do you think corporations want globalization? Because basically the pool of talent is much larger. So that's what Donald Trump is basically preventing. For instance, if I have a global company, and most of the corporations are global companies, they'll hire people who aren't American. They're taking your job. They're taking your job. You see, because they don't care about Americans. They care about profit. And you see, that's how the Republican Party has changed under Donald Trump. And that's why, to be honest with you, Wall Street money is going to Joe Biden.
That's right.
It's not going to Donald Trump. He keeps saying that. That's not true, Joseph Biden.
Right.
It's the Wall Street oligarchs are for you. They want globalization. They want to hire from India, from Europe, from South America. And whose job are they taking? Yours. They're taking yours. Listen, charity begins at home. You have to be real. The economy is a global economy. We do work. Things have changed. You can't have isolationism. However, I take care of my own first. And the president's job is to take care of his people first. It's not to take care of companies who all they care about is poaching talent globally, taking jobs away from the common man. That is you. Donald Trump has protected that. That's one of the many reasons why I'm voting for him, because I want to keep my job, by the way.
That's right. That's right. We want to keep our jobs, and we want more jobs from more of our fellow Americans, and we want higher wages. That's one thing Republicans don't like. That you say, what are you, a socialist? No, but I want to get paid. The employer is always looking out for his nickel. Why can't I look out for mine? Why is it legitimate for the employer to worry about his bottom line, but I'm not supposed to worry about mine? I never understood that about Republicans. Well, let the market. Well, the market determines wages to a certain degree. But then there's a morality of wages too, what I guess Aquinas would call a fair wage, just wage. Okay? In other words, do I have enough money? Am I making enough money, to provide for my family? Because that's what wages are supposed to be. Can you go to work? Yes, one man. I know that pisses off the feminists, okay? One man should be able to. The measure of how good your wage is can one man go to work and make enough money to provide for all the needs of his family? That's the way it used to be. You know people like that, okay? I know people like that. My father was one of them. My father worked in local Teamsters Local 560. He made a wage that made it so that now my mother did work a part-time job as we kids got a little bit older, okay? However, all right, she waited until we got older, okay? Then she went out and got a job. But my father made enough money to provide for us because he had job security. He had a good job with good wages, and he broke his ass, my father. When you're loading trucks, I don't care how lazy you are. A lazy guy still breaks his ass on a loading dock. I know because I did it myself. Those are the types of jobs we want. Those are the types of jobs that Wall Street hates. Wall Street hates those jobs. Why should you get $40 an hour? Why should you get $40 million a month? Is that a legitimate question, Joe Resinello?
It is. It is. And frankly, like I said, Americans come first. They should, because again, charity begins at home. Sadly, there's been some ominous tones out there, even some that are homicidal, and I would even go so far as terrorists.
Can I give a quick shout out?
Sure.
All right, so we got what the heck in the chat room. Because we all shop at Target and Walmart and give few people tons of money, power, and influence. I had this conversation with my wife today. We have to start ordering from Amazon, and we have to start getting away from the black boxes, or excuse me, what do you call them, the big box companies, because that's exactly what they want. They want to put all the mom and pops out of business, and that's a fact. And we need to get, but that takes an action on our part, which many people are not willing to do. And we just want to say, none of your business. Nicholas is here. I'm not a run-of-the-mill Catholic.
Neo Thomas is on the crusade.
Hey, Neo Thomas, good to see you, brother. Yes, he's a subscriber to the Crusade channel. He can tell you all about it. It's a great channel. Mohammed's with us. Mohammed Hussein, Trump 2020. All right, brother. Let's go. All right, so Joe, where are we headed?
Like I said, there's some ominous tones out there, sadly, coming from the left. It's coming from big tech. It's coming from high-profile leftists, and they're speaking openly about violence to be inflicted on Trump and all his supporters. We covered last week some things that Keith Olbermann has said. He used to work on ESPN, Sports Center. Horrible, horrible things, but sadly, he's not the only one. I just want to highlight a few of them, and then we could kind of chat about it. Because if you see in the news, A lot of cities, particularly Washington, D.C., and I've never seen this in the 50 years that I've been alive, they're boarding up their businesses. They're afraid of what is going to happen Election Day. I think that is a metric, actually, or an indicator, it's not really a metric, that Donald Trump is going to win, sadly, because if they thought he was going to lose, I don't think they'd be doing that.
Right.
However, that is going on. People are afraid. I saw a statistic today, 72% of America feel that there will be violence after this election. And some of the voices out there in the media are making it very clear how they feel about Trump and his supporters.
Can I preface this
Sure.
with something? Remember this as Joe is telling you about some of these examples, okay? And there's a lot more than this, by the way. This is this is a handful of examples.
Give you an
sample.
idea.
But these are prominent people. They're not Joe and Joe. A relatively small amount of people know us right now. A year from now, that's going to be a lot different. Just like a year ago, it was a lot smaller than it is now. These are prominent people who are advocating violence against other people. Joe mentioned Keith Olbermann. We're going to get into that, okay? But remember what the media sells you. Donald Trump is the divisive one. He's sowing hatred and division. Wait till you hear this crap. And then ask yourself, who's really sowing the division? Donald Trump or these dangerous people?
And as we said, we spoke about Keith Olbermann last week. He called us a lot of horrible things. He said we had to be expunged. He called us maggots. The agitator Niles Gilman called for the execution of a journalist and former Trump advisor Michael Anton. Shoot this CEO for not being woken up was the implication for former Twitter CEO Dick Costolo, who objected to the company's Coinbase decision to ease up on the forcing of employees to engage in a social justice agenda, such as critical race theory. If Trump loses, his supporters remain an existential threat, stated anti-Trump pundits who believe there is a lot of work to be done to de-Trumpify America.
Stop there. What does that mean? I'm not even joking. De-Trumpify. Joe mentioned Keith Olbermann earlier, who called us maggots, who said we need to be expunged from the public square. Is that what he said?
Yes,
All right, I think I'm
basically.
right. So we're maggots.
No, from society.
From society.
It's even bigger.
He didn't even say us.
Square.
He said Amy Coney Barrett and Bill Barr, who as human beings tower over a pusillanimous like Keith Olbermann. Okay, what do you mean? Who's the author's Paul Rosenberg? Okay, he wrote this. This was in Salon, right? Okay.
Yes.
That America needs to be de-Trumpified. So if Trump loses, and Joe and I hold the same positions on Wednesday as we do tonight, okay, what does that mean for the future? Does that mean now, well, Trump's out, are they still going to call for de-Trumpification? Or when Biden gets in with Kamala, okay, and the rest of that horrid crew, what means are they going to employ to de-Trumpify America? I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing: I'm not a tough guy, but I'm not a coward. But I got to admit, that strikes a little bit of fear in me.
That same gentleman basically bucketed us in with Nazis and the Baathists of Saddam Hussein's regime, describing America under Trump as a pathocracy.
Which means that you voted for him and there's something wrong with you.
We go on, actually, sadly. Trump supporters must be eradicated from society.
Sounds an awful lot like Nazis to me when they were talking about the Jews, calling us maggots, talking about getting rid of Jews, just like they're talking about getting rid of Trump supporters, and we need to be eradicated. Go ahead, Joe Resinello.
On August 4, 2019, a supposed religious scholar and CNN contributor, Riza Haslan, announced on Twitter that all Trump supporters must be, in quotes, this is what he said, must be eradicated from society, along with Trump, that there is no longer any room for nuance.
Now, let me pick up on that real quick, because this was a line that, you know me, all of you good people out there know me. My brains explode and the vein pops out of my head. I want to just pick up on this, because this was something I was thinking about on the way here. In this same Riza Aslan, who, by the way, wrote a very disparaging book about Jesus, and yet he denied it. No, he wasn't being disparaging. Yes, he was, okay? He's a Christian hater. That's what he is. This is what he said. He said, quote, "The president is a white nationalist. And I have a question for you, by the way, when this is done. The president is a white nationalist terror leader. His supporters, this is a quote, all of them are by definition white nationalist terror supporters. The MAGA hat is a KKK hood, and his evil racist scourge must be eradicated from society. I don't know if you guys know this about us, but I think you do. Joe's wife's black. Her sister is my wife. She's black too. Okay. Now, Reza Aslan could say anything he wants about Joe Rossinello and Joe Pasillo. Okay. But here's my question: how is it that, as we covered last week, 46% of African Americans after the debate expressed approval for Donald Trump? Hispanics have flip-flopped in Florida from the support of Hillary to their support of Donald Trump. You have all sorts of minorities that are supporting Donald Trump. And yet this, I don't want to curse on the show. I promised I wasn't going to curse. This guy is saying that Trump is a white terrorist nationalist leader and the MAGA hat's a KKK hat. I'm asking, I'm not telling, I'm asking. What would you say to this guy when let's say, how would you ask him to say, well, go say that to our wives?
Well, what it is,
or
you
go
can't
say that
say
to
anything
other.
because he's irrational. These people are deranged. Trump derangement syndrome, sadly, is real. There's nothing you can say.
But do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, it's
But how would
absurd.
like if our wives saw Reza Aslan on the street and went right up to him, okay? In other words, and our wives have some pretty big mouths, okay? They're not quiet gals, okay? And they went right up to him and says, call me a member of the Klan. I can see my wife doing that. All right, she's a little taller than your wife. I can see my wife going up to Reza Aslan and say, you called me a member of the Klan? I voted for Donald Trump. See, my skin is black. I voted for Donald Trump. What would he have to say?
Well, look at the comment that just came out towards 50 Cent. I had to remind him that he was black.
Who said that about
It was
him?
a woman. She, blonde, I don't recall.
So a blonde white chick had to
Yeah.
remind,
Because
that's not racist?
basically, that is the most racist statement I have ever heard. No, let me strike that. It's not the most racist statement.
But it's
I've
up
heard,
there.
but it's overtly racist. She's not called on it. Why can't a black person vote for Donald Trump? By the way, he's at 31% of the voting block right now, which is historic.
Who's that?
Donald Trump in the black community.
Really?
31%. That will sink Joe Biden in and of itself. That means he's pulling from the city votes, Philadelphia, Detroit, Milwaukee, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio.
You think
that
Philly's
is sinking.
You think
Donald
Philly's
Trump.
burning right now because of something that happened, let's say, in Philadelphia? The spark was ignited because of the fact that, as we said last week, African Americans expressed 46% approval rating after the debate for Trump. And as Joe just said, he solidly is supported right now about 31%. You think that those riots in Philadelphia are organic in some way? They're a put-up job to try to disrupt the election coming into Tuesday because they want to keep the black people who want to vote for Trump from getting to the polls to go vote for Trump. Why can't people get this through their head? Look at what they're saying to do. They want to kill you. You don't think that they'll keep you out of an election, a voting booth? They're telling you they want to eradicate you from society. You don't think that they'll try to block you from going to vote? Even if you're black, who would they care? These are Marxists. These are communists. They have no value for human life. Why can't people get that through their head?
And as we've seen a ramp up in violence with Antifa and Black Lives Matter across the United States. We just saw an incident in Philadelphia where a cop shot a man. The man was charging him with a knife. He was shot. It was a domestic dispute. You could actually Google the YouTube clip of it. It's rather violent. You'll see what happened. The man charged at a police officer. He had a knife. He was shot dead. There were riots. There were looting. There was looting, and the governor of Pennsylvania basically said he called it peaceful protesting for a good bit. It went on for 2 days. So this is what is going on in America. This is real. This is not a perceived idea by the conservatives or by ultra right-wing, activists. This is real. Tell the person who has a business in West Philadelphia who just lost their livelihood. Tell the person who basically is a shareholder in Walmart, got looted. Many Walmarts have gotten looted. That hurts the company's bottom line. Tell the people who are employed at minimum wage in Walmart The store probably is boarded up. This hurts the community. This has gone on now for 6 months.
When does it end, Joe Rossinello?
And you know something? This is what the media refuses to cover because, again, they're the enemy of the American people.
Because they're the enemy of truth.
And yes, they are. Because they are a propaganda wing for the Democratic Party. It's just a fact. And like I said, you could say whatever you want. Oh, the media is fair. No, it's not.
It's not.
Sorry. If the media was even, let's just call them neutral, Donald Trump would be up by 10, 20 points.
If they analyzed, without personalities coming into it, without any personalities coming into it, if they objectively analyzed each candidate and asked them to honestly state their positions on the issues, all issues, none, don't leave any rock unturned. Donald Trump, you go. Where do you stand on this? Where do you stand on that? Where do you stand on abortion? Where do you stand on environment? Where do you stand? And let him go. And then he goes on for 20 minutes, and then Biden does the same thing. And they did that across the board. And Biden was honest about his party's platform and the things that him and Kamala are proposing, okay? Donald Trump wins this election in a landslide if the media actually did their job.
And like I said, it's as plain as day. And if Donald Trump beats them, even with all the effort that was put behind getting him out of the office by all of the media outlets, he is basically signing their death certificate. If you ask me, they have no credibility. It's like Chris Wallace, zero credibility.
Right.
He handled that debate horribly. He pretends like he's some fancy journalist. He's the real deal.
Then he sits there with his nose in the air.
Oh, please.
In
He
other
has
words, it
no
tries to deflect
credibility.
Any legit
Zero.
criticism. No, none.
Sorry, Chris. You are a absolute and utter biased journalist. And frankly, I wouldn't even be surprised if he's basically kicked off of Fox. I mean, not like Fox is any better than that. They're biased too.
But at least we have Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham.
But let's talk.
I mean, seriously, at least we do. I will say.
No, I'll give it, but you know
and
something.
And if it wasn't for Tucker Carlson, who has the highest rated show, I believe, in American history, ever. Okay, if it wasn't for Tucker Carlson, the American people. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Biden, by the way, has been slipping in the polls these last couple of days, according to reputable polls. Okay, and not reputable because we say they are. They are just, in fact, reputable. They were closest to the election in 2016, like Trafalgar. Why is Biden slipping in the polls? Why has Donald Trump gone up, I believe, 6 points in Iowa? Joni Ernst, running for Senate, has gone up 4 points over her opponent in Iowa. And in other battleground states, the momentum has shifted and is gathering steam for Donald Trump and down ticket, Senate and Congress. Why? I'm going to say not all of it, but a certain percentage of that shift has to do with the fact that Tucker Carlson had on Tony Bobulinski talking about Hunter Biden and, more importantly, talking about Joe Biden. Tucker Carlson is a one-man media machine right now. That means if he actually gets a chance to do something or say something and cover a story that the media won't cover, it's going to have an effect. I dare say it's had an effect. And by the way, you know they tried to stop that story. Did you hear that? Real quick. He had a hard drive. Thank God they copied it. He had a hard drive sent from his producer in New York out to L.A., sent by UPS. I think it was UPS. It got lost along the way. And when the package showed up, it was open. And there was nothing in it. And the hard drive had on sensitive documents having to do with this investigation, having to do with this interview that he was doing with Tony Bobulinski. And it miraculously showed up the next day. In other words, like after Tucker Carlson said something about it. Now, I just digressed and went off on a little bit of a tangent. But my point is, you're talking about the media. At the very least, Fox has Tucker Carlson, and to a lesser degree, as far as audience is concerned, but to a lesser degree, Laura Ingraham. At least they have that going for them.
They'll be fired.
I'm hoping not. I mean,
eventually.
Joe, you're always a bastion of hope.
No,
Joe,
but I don't trust them. I don't trust them at all because, frankly, they're institutional people and they're not about basically rocking the boat. And that's what we don't need in America. You see, Trump is, they call him divisive. Well, the truth can be divisive. Joe Biden wants to unite you on a lie. I'm not interested in being united on a lie. I'd rather be at war over the truth. That's just me. You see, and institutional people don't rock the boat. Why? Because they have the advantage. They're wealthy and they're powerful. Why would they rock the boat?
Right.
They have it good. They're not going to ruin their life over anything, most especially the truth. I'm not interested in that politician anymore,
Right.
nor should you.
That's right.
I would rather be at war, not physically, with a war of words and ideas over the truth. Sorry, I'm not unifying around a lie.
Well, when you fight in a compromising way, the best you're going to do, even if you win, is you're going to achieve compromise. Compromise is not such a great word. In fact, I find compromising with the left to be a very bad thing. If you're going to fight, like Joe said, fight to win. If you lose, but at least you fought for the truth. Lay it all out there. That's what Jesus Christ did, okay? Speaking up against lies and deceit, got nailed to a cross for it. Now, we're called to do the same thing. We're called to bear our cross. Get out in the fight and fight for the truth. Don't fight for compromise. Take your abortion compromises and I'll tell you what to do with them. We want abortion abolished. The same with gay marriage. No, don't back down from these people. We want protection of our workers. We want protection of our borders. Okay, we want strength in our families. Don't give in to these people. When do they ever give in, Joe Resinello? When do they ever give in? They went right down to the wire with Amy Coney Barrett. When did they ever give in? That Ted Cruz had to point out the second day of the hearing or the third day of the hearing when no Democrats except two were sitting in the committee room, and Durbin got all indignant. Well, there's a pandemic going on. He said to Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz says even now none of my Democrat colleagues are here. In other words, because they fight to win, we need to fight to win.
Speaking of another disgrace, we got to talk about Jack Dorsey and our friend Zuckerberg at Facebook. They were brought into the Senate this week, and there was talk about taking away Section 230. Basically, just for those who need a little background on what that is, Section 230 refers to a portion of the Communications Decency Act of 1996. It protects social media firms from liability from third-party posts on their platform. Basically, you can't get sued, and that's a protection given to them. And frankly, Donald Trump has threatened to take it away using leverage to basically say to them, listen, you can't be the police with regard to what can and what cannot be on your platform. It's an open platform. That's how you basically advertised it, and that's how it has to be. This is what Jack Dorsey had to say. He said, eroding the foundation of Section 230 could collapse how we communicate on the internet, leaving only a small number of giant and well-funded technology companies. We should also be mindful that undermining Section 230 will result in far more removal of online speech and impose severe limitations on our collective ability to address harmful content and protect people online.
No.
That's a lawyered statement.
Well,
that's just all that is. That's just a lawyered statement.
But it's a statement that needs to be dissected, okay? Because it's very important. Because there's another quote from Zuckerberg. But let's get into what do you call it? Listen, Joe's got a nickname for Dorsey. He calls him the mutant.
He's a strange dude, man.
Now, I have never seen Jack Dorsey talk up until the other day when he testified in front of the Senate.
Dude, he looked like friggin' Rasputin. No joke.
Yeah, Rasputin with a nose ring.
No joke.
And he's looking like this. Joe, he's like...
Yeah, dude, I mean, I don't know. Dude, he's a billionaire.
Right, he's a billionaire, okay? He probably took gender studies in school along with computer programming. He emphasized the computer program, and he was able to be the CEO of Twitter. The dude is definitely a mutant because he's just kind of like, well, Senator Cruz, and he's got his eyes open like this, and he's got his nose out. And my first thought that came into my mind was, Joe Resinello's right. This guy's a mutant. And the second thing came into my mind, I looked at my wife and I said, babe, this dude's high. He's in front of the Senate, via Zoom, of course, but this guy's high. Look at his eyes. They're all glassy. But here's the point, all right? And on a more serious note, look at what Joe Resinello just said, okay? This was Dorsey talking about the removal of online speech and impose severe limitations on our collective ability to address harmful content and protect people online. Here's my point. Who's determining what harmful content is?
They are.
See, exactly. The problem is, Mr. Dorsey, is that what you say is harmful is my free political speech that I could bring into the public square. and make known in the public square. What is one of the things that I'm going to talk about in the public square? I am opposed to gay marriage.
Hate speech.
Hate speech. So that means that you would remove me, and you want to keep this protection that you have so that you can remove me. Because you want to determine or farm out to the ADL what hate speech actually is. You're an open platform, sir. You're an open platform. That means Nazis and communists and everywhere in between can use your platform. And you can't do a damn thing about it.
And by the
because you're
way,
an open platform.
Saying that you're for marriage, which is defined by one man and one woman, is not hate speech. That's a Christian idea, that is a Jewish idea, and that is a Muslim idea. And it's, by the way, pervasive across the globe.
And from the beginning of history.
This is where we've gone wrong in our society. It's also the building block of a society. Yet, that's a conversation for a different day. Yet, because of our relativism in our country, because of the idea that we determine what the truth is, as opposed to a truth that is basically an umbrella, or better yet, a foundation of a society, we are allowing people, just because they're wealthy, just because they're powerful, to police what can and cannot be said. That's why they were in front of the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, those type of lawyered statements, and that's just what they are, lawyered statements, should enrage you. More reason why they should be broken up.
That's right.
More reason why we have to vote for Donald Trump to protect free speech. I am not here to be basically censored by Jack Dorsey or Zuckerberg just because they have what they have. That's not what America's all about.
That's right. That's right.
Sorry, guys. And you're the ones that say you're tolerant. You are the least
tolerant people. Just want to give a quick shout out.
people.
Chris is with us. Hey, Chris. He says he loves Tucker. So do we. Viol is with us. Hi, Viol. Bill. Tapan. Tish. Haven't seen you, Tish, in a while. I want to know how it's going, Tish. Tish was actually one of our first viewers. I remember you, Tish. And if you hit me up privately, I'm going to tell you why. But I remember you said you were thinking about coming into the Catholic Church. Hopefully you've made that. Hopefully you've made that leap. We are certainly praying for that. Robbie from Texas, what's happening, Robbie? Yes, we did. Well, I saw Archbishop Vigano's letter to Trump. I think he read it online to the Catholic Identity Conference. So yes, we got to. And he makes a very good point, by the way. We're not going to get into the whole thing, Robbie. But yes, we talked to Rabbi Yehuda Levin today, and we're going to post a video with him. And we were talking about whether or not Trump is transitional or transformational. And one of the ways I think he's transitional, but we've said on this show before, where the better candidate will come in the future, okay, and Trump will transition to that, is he does, as Archbishop Vigano said, he does hold back. Him being in office, all right, and doing at least the things that he's been doing, and hopefully will continue to do, is at least holding back the evil. I think that was Archbishop Vigano's point. Holding it back somewhat to give us time to regroup and fight this culture war the way we're supposed to. So, yeah, Robbie, I saw it because I think Michael Matt from The Remnant, he had posted it, so we gave that. Chris is with us. It's a great show. Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate it. Dan the man. Estella, and yeah, so let's go over. Oh, can I, real quick?
Sure.
Zuckerberg's quote, and then we'll go to our last story of the night. We have one more story, right?
Yep.
Zuckerberg's quote is along the lines of Dorsey. Now, don't think these guys didn't get together before going up in front of the Senate. Remember, it's about they want the protection because they want to be able to moderate what you say and what Joe and I say on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Google, okay? So now here was Zuckerberg. Again, we're all smart people, so we know what these guys are saying. This was Zuckerberg. Without Section 230, platforms could face liability for doing some even basic moderation. One more time. Who are you to do moderation? Yours is supposed to be an open platform. You're not supposed to make editorial decisions. So that's what he said, such as removing, get this, Joe, hold on to your britches, okay? Such as removing hate speech and harassment that impacts the safety and the security of their communities. Let's get something straight. When I'm in my computer in my home and I'm on Facebook or I'm on Twitter or wherever I am in all this social media, I am at no risk whatsoever. The only people I'm at risk against are the leftists who want to dox people like us. Okay? But I'm at no risk whatsoever. Somebody says something I don't like, you know what I do? I keep it moving. I don't cry. I don't need to go into the crying group. I don't need, what do they call it, Joe? I forgot what they call it on college campuses. They have a crying room or something. No, we don't cry. We don't cry. We just move on. There's a lot of people that criticize us. One guy in the chat room a couple weeks ago said, "What are these two idiots talking about?" So we just move on. That's all. So the online safety of their communities, there's no such thing as online safety. If you don't like something, avoid it. If you see something, move on. If you can't handle it, get off social media. But stop telling these companies that they have to stop me from saying the truth and Joe from saying the truth and you people from hearing the truth because we're hurting somebody's feelings. But that's what Zuckerberg and Dorsey are trying to do. That's why two options here, okay, to put a finer point on it. 230 gets, they don't have the 230 protections, or as Ted Cruz wants to do and Josh Hawley, break them up. Declare them a public utility and break them up.
Our last story of the night is coming out of Delaware. It's our good friend, Senator Coons. He was on the Rachel Maddow show, and this is what he had to say. I'm going to read you the quote, and then we'll have our conversation. He says this: "We've got to have a wide-open conversation about how do we rebalance our courts. Yes, the 2 Supreme Court seats, now 3, that have been stolen through these processes that are just widely hypocritical, have been used to jam through partisan nominees. But we've got to look at our federal courts as a whole, Rachel, because we've seen hundreds of conservative judges put on circuit courts and district courts all over this country in the last 4 years, and in many cases, these judges are too young, too unqualified, and too far right to be allowed." Now, pay attention to this. This is what he said. "These judges are too far right to be allowed to sit peacefully without our re-examining the process, the results, and the consequences." What do you mean, Senator? What do you mean by that? By the way, each of these judges were put on the bench fairly, all in accordance with the law.
Nothing was stolen.
Elections have consequences. And by the way, if you have a problem with this, blame Barack Obama, because he left many of these seats idle. Either he was not paying attention or he just took for granted that Hillary Clinton was going to win.
Shame on him.
That was a big mistake.
That's right.
Don't blame Donald Trump for capitalizing on it. I would have done the same. And secondly, just because they've been put on the court and you disagree with their basic ideology as far as how they look at the law, i.e. that they're originalists, i.e. they believe in the Constitution as opposed to twisting it, that does not give you the right to quote-unquote rebalance the court. What do you mean by that?
Who are you?
That is not America.
That is, listen.
And it should scare people, by the way. It should scare people. These type of statements coming from politicians, whether they're Republican or Democratic politicians, should scare you. You have no right to do that. Everything that was done with regard to putting these judges on the court was legal. And if you disagree with them, then here's my advice. Change your policies because they stink.
Right.
And that's why you have lost elections. By the way, Barack Obama won 2 terms, but he lost in the House and the Senate 3 times. Barack Obama had stinky policies. He did. He was a charismatic man that won a 2nd term. He was a good orator, and he was charismatic, and he won. His ideas stunk. They straight up and down stunk, and it was reflected in the votes in the House and in the Senate. That's why these judges are on the bench.
Can I tell you a story? Guy I work with. I respect him. I think he's an independent. I don't think he identifies as a Republican or a Democrat. He hates Trump, okay? Hates him. But he respects me, okay? And he said to me, he goes, so I know you're, he goes, I can't stand Trump and I know you're voting for him. And he says, what's what the main thing motivating you? And as all you good people out there know, is our thing is judges first and foremost. And I brought this up to him, because we got this article during the week and I had seen this guy during the week. And I said, can you tell me why I should vote for a party that can't take the fact that, as you said, they lost an election. They lost actually 3 elections in a row where the American people kept the Senate in the hands of Republicans. 3 elections in a row. All right, 14, 16, and 18, and it looks like they're going to keep it again, particularly if Joni Ernst wins and John James takes a Democrat seat in Michigan. But having said that, because now my argument, or not my argument, but my point to this gentleman was, I could talk to a Democrat and not say that they're un-American if that Democrat is willing to accept the processes that are laid out in the Constitution, i.e., the president puts up judges, the Senate, who is elected by the people and is accountable to the people, will give their advice and consent and either vote to confirm or not confirm that judge. Isn't that a normal process? Normal functioning of our government.
That's the American process.
See, Chris Coons is not American, was my point. An American, because we are good Americans, we accept the fact that we lose once in a while. Does that mean that we stop fighting? No. That's what we're doing now. We're fighting, okay? We're fighting for a change in the culture, change in politics, have more good people in the government. But we accept the fact that we lose sometimes. I had to accept the fact that I lost when Elena Kagan got on the Supreme Court, and when Sotomayor got on the Supreme Court, and back in the day when Souter got on the Supreme Court, and Breyer got on the Supreme Court, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg got on the Supreme Court. Chris Coons is telling Rachel Maddow, if we take the Senate, we're going to go and impeach every single one of those judges.
Or they're going to pack the court.
No, I'm not even talking about the Supreme Court. This guy's talking about all the judges underneath.
Which is even scarier.
Right.
To make such a claim.
Because what he's saying then is, see, this is not American. A judge is voted on, and if that judge is confirmed, that judge is a judge for life. Okay? And you can't go back retroactively once you get the Senate back and say, well, you're too, now he used the words, not us. He used the words, too far right. You're too far right. Now, of course, he's going to say they're too young, which is irrelevant. Okay? If you're smart, I don't care if you're young. All right? And he said too unqualified. Well, the ABA gives them a rating, gives all judges ratings. Well, evidently, you had an opportunity, Senator Coons, when those people came up there to say, well, you're not qualified. You either said it or you didn't. But the fact is that person's now on the court. Now, my point in this whole diatribe is you are not an American. If you can't accept the fact that those judges, those judgeships were not filled by Barack Obama for whatever reason he had, okay, that's his fault. Okay, it was a mistake. And Trump seized on it and put up all conservative judges. And Mitch McConnell took that mantle up and made sure we got conservative judges. You can't take the fact that those people are going to sit there for a very, very, very long time, Senator Coons. And no, you're not American if you say that if the people of the United States give you the Senate back, you're going to go and review all of those judges. That's not American, sir. And we all know, by the way, from your track record, that you are a communist. You have at least been a communist in your life, so you just don't automatically become an anti-communist. You are a communist, and we know you don't care about the process. You don't care about the Constitution. You don't care about these people who were duly put on the court, and they're staying there. That's my point, is that this guy, Joe Rossinello, is un-American. That's the part about it that I hate.
With
more
an
than
M,
anything else.
not an A, because we're Americans.
We're American. But Chris Coons is American with a K. See, Joe and I were American. Chris Coons is American with a K. Like that, like TV
It's like the Little Rascals K too. It's done wrong. It's done like
yeah. It's like backwards. It's backwards. So that's my point about Chris Coons. No, Chris Coons. No. You don't get to just take judges out because you consider them too far right. Because real quick, tell me your opinion on this. What's to stop Republicans? Let's say they did that. What's to stop Republicans when they get to the Senate and they turn around and say, well, guess what? We're doing the same thing. You took out 100 judges. You put in 100 of your own judges. I'm being completely hypothetical here. You took out 100 judges. You put in 100 of your own judges. And now we have power, and we're going to take your 100 judges out. That is not America. That is not what the Constitution allows for.
That's chaos. That's a banana republic. And if we're going in that direction, I'll be honest with you, you should all be afraid, because that's when trouble happens. We've seen it in other parts of the world. Don't think it can't happen here. And frankly, the left, they're flirting with those ideas. And frankly, it scares me. It scares me. This is not what this country was about. This country was about the people. Mm-hmm. And frankly, we have not seen that. We have seen the media basically put their 2 cents into the election. They have taken sides. They have suppressed ideas. They have absolutely and utterly suppressed propaganda, if you ask me, for the Democratic Party, which means, in my view, you're the enemy of the American people. They deserve to lose. I hope they lose, and maybe we'll do better next time with regard to covering the presidency, as well as giving voice to the American people, giving honor to the Constitution, giving respect to the right given to us as a people to have a free press. Because right now, they're not doing their job.
That's right. So we want to thank you all. That was a great conversation. I think everybody in the chat room enjoyed it. There's a lot of activity in there right now. You guys are the best. You know, and we tell you all the time, your support, both in your prayers, financially, you can't see it. Joe and I are looking at all new equipment, which we still have to tweak a little bit, but nonetheless, it's all new, and it's because of you guys. We have an ongoing GoFundMe campaign. Support the Frontline with Joe and Joe at GoFundMe. We get a few bucks every week gets thrown in there, which is a beautiful thing. But, you know, you guys always support us. You're here. Please, 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 by all means, if you like this video and all our other videos, if you're on Facebook and you're watching this, share the video on your page or share it with groups that you belong to that allow you to post if you think this video is worthy. Invite other friends to like our page. If you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell. That really, really will help us. We're struggling in our YouTube audience, which is fine. I mean, our message is getting out there, whether it goes to 500 people or 500,000 people. We're going to keep doing this, okay, because it's important. But we'd ask you for your continued support. Take a couple seconds and just do a little sharing. Let your friends know about us, and make sure you keep up to date on everything we got going. Please support Holy Faith Media. That Jonathan Ross is a fabulous, fabulous human being, and he supports us. He found us, and he produces all of our shows. He's been helping us tremendously with really getting the message out there and supporting us on other platforms and getting our videos on other platforms. So Holy Faith Media.
And interviews.
Yes. And we have a number of really good interviews. We had an interview that's up on Facebook with Dr. Ralph Martin. We were talking about his new book, A Church in Crisis, Pathways Forward. Who else do we do? Brandon McGinley wrote a new book with Scott Hahn. And what was the name of the book? And I'm drawing a blank.
Justice something. I can't even. Something justice.
How to establish a truly just society. Anyway, the title is on our Facebook page. But Brandon McGinley, great guest. We had a great conversation with him. We have a video I'll probably be posting tomorrow with Rabbi Yehuda Levin, and that guy is on fire.
Yeah, he's not playing games.
He's not playing games. Okay, he's an Hasidic Jew from Brooklyn, and he is right alongside us when it comes to fighting this culture war. Okay. We don't agree with them on everything, but in the culture war, we're going to have to make friends with whoever we can because we have a common enemy, and we will always say that. So yeah, a lot of good stuff that you can find on our page, both on YouTube and on Facebook. So please view that, like it, subscribe, and share, and do all that fun stuff. And any parting thoughts about the election?
Well, vote. That's why people, bled and died for this in this country, for us to have that right. So get out there and vote. Make your voice heard, and I'm just telling you who I'm voting for. I'm voting for Donald Trump.
And please, we're never going to tell anybody what to do. I voted down ticket. I know it's very hard to get a Republican elected senator or a congressman in New Jersey. I went right down the ticket. Trump, what's his name? Rick Mehta is running for senator against Cory Booker, and in my district, Billy Prempa out of Patterson. Rick Mehta's an Indian. Talk about reshaping the Republican Party. Rick Mehta is an Indian American, and Billy Prempa is an African American, okay, in the Republican Party. I'm voting for by the way, for all those people that would call us racist, I'm voting for an African American Republican, Billy Prempa, over an Italian American Democrat, Bill Pascrell, who's part of the swamp in Washington, D.C. Anyway, if we stay on, we'll stay on for another hour. We got to get out of here. We got to get some sleep. Anyway, we love you all. And remember, go out and vote on Tuesday. Make sure I know you've all been praying. Let's make sure we keep praying and keep praying after the election too, no matter what happens. And remember, until next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation, it's going on everywhere. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening.